So, you've probably heard all the buzz about AI, right? Seen the headlines, maybe even used a chatbot or two.
Definitely. We all have, I think.
But beyond that surface level stuff, beyond the hype, how is artificial intelligence actually being used in business?
Yeah.
Like right now?
Yeah. And maybe more importantly, what are the surprising challenges, the big ethical questions that pop up when these technologies start getting really mature?
That's what we're getting into today. We're doing a deep dive into the practical side of AI, how it's being applied across different sectors.
Right. We'll look at speech recognition, financial services, insurance, and that really fascinating intersection with blockchain, too.
And we'll also touch on the new kinds of leadership roles AI is actually creating. Think new C-suite titles.
And then tackle those really profound ethical questions that AI forces us to confront.
Our main guide here is Francesco Corea's work, Applied Artificial Intelligence, where AI can be used in business. It's pretty comprehensive. So our mission really is to pull out the key insights, give you those aha moments, you know?
A shortcut to getting up to speed on AI's real-world impact.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So first up, this revolution in conversational AI, it's pretty central, isn't it? Conversational user interfaces, CUIs.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're right at the heart of a lot of current AI development.
Yeah.
And we've come such a long way. Remember the old mechanical Turks?
Huh. Yeah. The humans basically hiding behind the curtain pretending to be AI.
Exactly. Now, it's actual deep learning driving things. It's created this whole concept of conversation as a platform.
Which is really shaking up the app market.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it helps understand the different kinds of bots out there. Like Dang at Microsoft had a useful way to think about it.
Okay.
Well, basically threefold. First, you have bots that just, look for information, like a spoken search query. Simple enough.
Right.
Then bots that find information to do something, to complete a task, like booking a flight, ordering pizza, that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
But it's the third type, the social bots, the chat bots. That's where it gets really complex.
Ah, the ones designed for actual conversation.
Precisely. And they are way, way harder to get right. That's the big challenge.
And if we do get them right, what's the vision then? It sounds kind of sci-fi.
Well, the idea is pretty mind-blowing, yeah. A world where machines talk to each other naturally, like humans do.
A bot-to-bot business model.
That's the concept. You'd have these master bots acting as gateways and follower bots using them.
So universal translators, almost, but for tasks and services.
Sort of. And the key is, the thinking goes, advances in speech recognition and the tech stack mean they'd communicate in plain English.
Which could help with that whole black box problem in AI, maybe. Understanding why it does what it does.
Potentially, yeah. More transparency. But we're not there yet.
So what's stopping us? What are the hurdles to these perfect social bots?
Well, several things. Machine translation, for one. It's amazing how far it's come, like with Google's neural stuff, but it's still, relatively speaking, in its infancy.
Right. Still makes funny mistakes sometimes.
Exactly. And then there's the reliance on supervised learning for speech recognition. It just needs so much labeled data.
We need unsupervised learning to really crack it.
That would be a massive breakthrough, yes. But maybe the biggest challenge is embedding all those human nuances.
Like personality, tone, context.
All of that. And spatiotemporal context, how language changes based on time and place. It's incredibly subtle.
Are companies working on this?
Oh, definitely. MetaMind, for example, they've done work with things like joint many tasks or JMT to help AI learn multiple things at once.
Okay.
And dynamic attention networks, DCNs, which are about helping AI understand complex questions better. But, it's a long road.
So with all this development, how does the market look? How are these bot companies organizing themselves?
The source uses a neat little 2x2 matrix. It plots bots based on whether they're native, built from scratch, or enablers tools to build bots.
Okay, native versus enablers. And the other axis.
Specific applications versus generic ones.
Got it. So that gives you 4 types of startups.
Exactly. You get employee bots. They're like plug-and-play frameworks for certain industries.
Right.
Then general user interfaces, they're aiming for that pure, broad conversational ability. The really ambitious ones. Then bots contractors. These are more like generalists you hire for specific tasks, often focused on cost savings.
Makes sense.
And finally, bots factories. These are the platforms that let you build your own custom bot.
Interesting. So quite a diverse landscape already.
And growing fast. It's
Yep.
becoming a really significant market.
Okay, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about how AI is impacting some of those big traditional industries. Insurance, for example.
Insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd think it's all data, right? Perfect for AI.
But it's been notoriously slow to change, hasn't it?
Incredibly resistant.
Yeah.
A real hard nut to crack, as they say. Part of it is things like adverse selection, very heavy regulation.
And just tons of unstructured data, historically, stuff that's hard to analyze.
Exactly. Notes, reports, claims, descriptions. Not neat rows and columns.
But AI is finally starting to make inroads.
It really is. It's helping insurers engage with customers better, keep them longer. It's cutting costs massively through things like RPA, robotic process automation.
Automating the repetitive stuff.
Right. And it's even starting to nudge people towards, safer or healthier behaviors with personalized feedback.
Okay, but here's where the source says it gets really interesting, right? The impact on insurability itself.
Yes. This is huge.
Yeah.
Because AI can analyze data at such a granular level, it might make people who were previously uninsurable actually insurable.
Okay.
But the flip side is it could also make some currently insurable people uninsurable or only insurable at crazy high premiums.
Wow. So it raises this big societal question about a pricing threshold. Like, where does the government maybe need to step in?
Potentially. If basic risks become unaffordable for segments of the population because the AI deems them too high risk based on super detailed data, it's a major ethical consideration.
The source mentions Gin Park's conditions for insurable risk. Things like needing lots of similar units, accidental loss.
Right, the classic insurance principles. And AI looks set to affect basically all of them.
How so?
Well, with better profiling, maybe you don't need such a massive anonymous pool anymore. AI might help predict and even prevent losses, changing the accidental nature. It definitely helps compute potential losses more accurately.
So the upshot is AI could actually lower the bar for what counts as an insurable risk.
That's the idea. It could bring more aspects of life under the insurance umbrella, which would be good, but also raises those pricing and access questions again.
And we're seeing companies jump on this already.
Oh yeah. Claims processing is being automated. Virtual agents are getting smarter. People talk about a robo-insurer concept. Think Spixie or Policy Genius.
Telematics in cars is a big one.
Definitely. Using driving data for premiums. And underwriting is changing fast too. Companies like Carpe Data analyzing social media.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, public data. Or Cape Analytics using computer vision on satellite images to assess property risk.
That's clever.
And then you have peer-to-peer models like Lemonade and even integrating blockchain with Inserchain and smart contracts. Look at Teambrella. Lots of innovation happening.
Okay, let's pivot now to another huge data-rich sector, financial services.
Right, finance. Similar story. In some ways, tons of data, but historically, well, lots to talk about innovation, maybe less internal action.
Yeah, the source notes, they often import innovation rather than growing it themselves. Why is that? Culture, regulation?
A mix of things. Deeply ingrained culture, legacy systems, regulatory burdens. It makes internal change hard and slow sometimes.
The source makes an interesting comparison here to biopharma.
It does. Calling biopharma an innovate to survive industry. Their development cycles are famously long, technical, uncertain, expensive, risky, especially early on.
Okay.
And the argument is that AI is actually making financial services development look more like that. These big AI projects have similar characteristics now.
So it's forcing finance to adopt that same kind of innovation-first mindset?
Pretty much, just to keep up. And it really highlights that critical build versus buy decision for banks and financial firms. When it comes to AI, do we develop it ourselves or partner or acquire?
So what makes finance such a fertile ground for AI right now? What's special about it?
Well, first, just the sheer amount of data. It's staggering. And things like the EU's PSD2 directive are opening up even more data, especially to smaller fintech players.
More data access, okay.
Second, a lot of core financial processes are just fundamentally suitable for automation. The potential impact of AI is huge because of that.
Low-hanging fruit in some areas.
You could say that. And third, you've got the generational shift. Millennials and younger generations are generally much more open to sharing data, especially if they get valuable services in return.
Right, less privacy concern perhaps for certain benefits.
It seems that way. So you have this ready-made audience for AI-powered financial tools.
How does the source break down AI applications in fintech?
It segments it pretty neatly. First, there's financial wellness. Think robo-advisors, smart wallets helping with budgeting, new ways of credit scoring.
Personalized finance management.
Exactly. Then financial security. This is huge. Fraud detection is a massive area for AI, plus biometrics for secure authentication.
Keeping things safe.
Then money transfer payments, peer-to-peer lending platforms, and finally, capital markets.
That sounds broad.
It is. Covers everything from algorithmic trading and DIY investment funds to using alternative data for market intelligence and really sophisticated risk management tools.
So the big picture, the end goal here is?
The vision is this idea of a frictionless bank of the future.
Frictionless, meaning?
Well, maybe no physical branches, maybe no credit cards as we know them, hopefully minimal fraud. Essentially, the bank becomes a platform. A bank as a platform.
Interesting. That idea of a platform leads us nicely into the next big topic, this convergence of AI and blockchain.
Ah, yes. Two massive technologies colliding. Lots of hype, but also some real potential there.
Let's start with the basics, maybe. Just quickly, what is a blockchain at its core?
Okay, simplest terms. It's basically a shared database, but it's secure. It's distributed, meaning lots of people hold copies, and it's immutable, so it's incredibly hard to change things once they're recorded.
Shared, secure, can't easily be tampered with.
Right, and everyone in the network can see the transactions, making it auditable.
How does it work, technically? Briefly.
Data gets grouped into blocks. Each block is linked to the previous one using a cryptographic hash, like a unique digital fingerprint, and it includes a timestamp.
Creating a chain of blocks. Hence, blockchain.
Exactly. And there are mechanisms like proof of work or proof of stake to validate transactions and make sure everyone agrees on the state of the chain.
The source calls it a foundational technology, like TCP/IP for the internet.
Yeah, that's a common analogy. The idea is it drastically cuts down the costs of verification and networking because trust is built into the system itself.
Shifting value to the protocol layer, the FAT protocol theory.
Right. The theory that the underlying blockchain protocol itself captures more value than the specific applications built on top of it. Unlike the early web, where applications like Google or Facebook captured most value.
And smart contracts fit in here too.
Definitely. They're bits of code living on the blockchain that automatically execute agreements when certain conditions are met. No intermediaries needed.
We should also briefly mention ICO's initial coin offerings.
Ah, yes, the token sales.
Yeah.
Basically, a way for blockchain projects to raise funds by selling their own digital tokens.
Huge amounts of money raised, but also risky, right?
Very. You really need to scrutinize them. Things like uncapped sales where they can just keep raising money indefinitely can be a red flag. Transparency is key. Is the token actually useful within the project?
Good points. But the really fascinating part is how AI and blockchain might actually change each other.
Exactly. It's a two-way street. Let's start with how AI could help blockchain.
Okay. Blockchain's limitations. Energy consumption is a big one, right? Proof of work mining.
Huge. AI could potentially optimize that mining process, make it way more energy efficient. That'd be a game changer.
What else? Scalability.
Yeah.
Blockchains can get slow.
Right. AI techniques like federated learning, where models train on distributed data without moving it, could help blockchain scale to handle many more transactions.
And security?
AI could enhance the security of the applications built on top of the blockchain, making them more resilient to attacks or finding vulnerabilities.
What about privacy? Blockchain is transparent, which isn't always good for sensitive data.
True, but AI combined with techniques like homomorphic encryption could allow processing of encrypted data on the blockchain, so you get the security benefits without revealing the raw data.
That's clever.
AI could also boost efficiency, cutting transaction costs and latency, maybe even repurpose some of that specialized mining hardware for running neural networks.
So AI could automate ledger creation, manage data access.
Potentially, yeah. Imagine AI acting as intelligent gatekeepers for your personal data on a blockchain, ensuring only authorized parties access it based on rules you set.
Okay, so that's AI helping blockchain. What about the other way around? How can blockchain help AI?
This is maybe even more interesting. First, explainability. That black box problem again.
Right. AI makes a decision, but we don't know why.
Blockchain could provide an immutable audit trail for an AI's decision-making process. Every step, every piece of data used, recorded transparently. That could build a lot of trust.
Makes sense. What else?
Making AI more effective. Secure data sharing via blockchain means AI could access more diverse, high-quality data without compromising privacy as much. More data usually means better AI.
democratizing AI, lowering barriers to entry.
Yes. Blockchain could enable marketplaces for data, pre-trained AI models, even AI processing power. This could potentially break the dominance of the big tech giants who currently hoard most of the data and talent.
That's a big claim.
It is, but it's a powerful idea. It could foster more competition and innovation.
And trust between bots and humans and bots.
Yeah, if bots operate on a transparent, auditable blockchain system, it could increase what the source calls artificial trust, crucial for things like coordinating swarms of drones or complex automated systems.
And even reducing catastrophic risks by limiting what AI can do.
That's a fascinating concept. Coding an AI within a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization on a blockchain, could potentially give it limited action spaces, hard-coded rules it simply cannot break, a safety mechanism.
So if blockchain democratizes data and AI models become more open, what's left is the competitive edge for companies.
Alan, that seems to be the implication. Access to the best people who can build, deploy, and adapt these systems becomes the key differentiator.
Are we seeing companies actually operate at this intersection yet, these decentralized intelligent companies?
They're starting to emerge, yeah. Still relatively niche, though. SingularityNet is often mentioned trying to build a decentralized marketplace for AI services, trainee AI focusing on decentralized AI training.
But it's complex territory. How do you even evaluate these companies? They can seem pretty opaque.
Exactly, and that brings risk. The source mentions the cautionary tale of Magos AI.
What happened there?
Raised a bunch of money through an ICO for an AI prediction platform, then basically disappeared. Poof.
Ouch.
It highlights what the source calls negative convergence. Just as the potential benefits of combining these exponential technologies grow, the risks, scams, failures, unintended consequences also increase exponentially.
So stay alert. Healthy skepticism required.
Very much so. Distinguish the hype from the real potential.
Okay. So navigating this complex future, it seems like we need new kinds of leadership. The source talks about new C-suite roles emerging, like the chief data officer, CDO.
Right. The CDO role has really evolved. It's not just about managing databases anymore.
What is it now?
It's more of a liaison, bridging the gap between the tech side and the business analytics side. They're responsible for data quality, governance, strategy, and ultimately for democratizing data across the company.
Making data accessible and usable for everyone.
Pretty much. They're like the chief of data engineers, setting up the infrastructure and processes so data flows smoothly.
The source says the goal is almost to make the role obsolete.
In a way, yes. A successful CDO embeds data responsibility so deeply into every part of the business that eventually a central data chief might not be needed anymore. Each division manages its own data effectively. Data self-sufficiency.
Interesting goal. Then there's the CIIO, Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer. Is that a real role yet?
It's still emerging, mostly hypothetical in many places. But its existence, or even the discussion around it, signals a company is getting serious about being AI-driven.
So what would a CIIO actually do?
The idea is they connect the dots. Ensure AI isn't stuck in silos, that it's integrated across different functions, products, processes. They champion AI strategically.
What kind of person would that take?
Someone respected in the AI community, a real guiding light, but also with a strong grasp of the underlying tech and the business needs. A tricky balance.
Balancing risk and innovation.
Exactly. The risks are clear. You could end up misaligned, focusing on cool tech that doesn't solve business problems, or trying to shoehorn AI into everything inappropriately.
Could it be a temporary role, just to get a company up to speed?
That's suggested, yeah. Transitional role to embed AI capability throughout the organization. But for the next decade or so, having that central AI hub seems pretty appealing for big companies.
And the third one mentioned is the CRO, Chief Robotics Officer. That sounds different again.
Completely different, really. This is less about algorithms and data, more about managing the physical or digital automated workforce.
Robots on the factory floor or software bots doing RPA?
Both, potentially. The CRO would oversee how humans and automated systems work together, managing workflow automation, integration, maybe the ethics of automation too.
More strategic than technical.
That's the proposal. Especially important in the early days of adopting robotics, managing the costs and complexities.
Does the source think this role has long-term legs?
Maybe not permanently, like the CDO. Once automation is just normal, part of standard operations, a dedicated CRO might not be necessary.
We might even see splits, like a chief of physical robotics and a chief of digital robotics.
That's floated as a possibility, yeah, depending on the business.
Okay, this leads us into probably the thorniest area, the ethics of AI. Starting with data and bias, the human element.
Crucial topic. And the key insight from the source is that most data, unless it's purely about, say, physics, reflects human biases.
Because humans created it, or it describes human activities.
Exactly. The source calls bias an evolutionary lag, or a mental shortcut. Not always bad in itself, but it becomes a problem when the world changes faster than our shortcuts can adapt.
And these biases get baked into the AI if we're not careful.
Absolutely. Chris Hammond identified 5 ways this can happen.
Yeah.
Bias already in the data, bias introduced through interaction, similarity bias where AI favors things it's seen before.
Conflicting goals bias, emergent bias.
Right. Conflicting goals between different parts of an AI system, or emergent bias that just sort of appears unexpectedly from complex interactions.
But here's a really provocative thought from the source.
The philosophical question.
Yeah. If AI, even with perfect data, still ends up reflecting patterns we call biased, should that make us question our own definitions of ethical or correct?
It's a deep one. We assume bias is bad. But what if some patterns AI finds are just reflections of complex human realities that challenge our neat ethical boxes? Could general AI force a reevaluation of our entire value system?
Mind-bending stuff. It ties into accountability and trust, doesn't it? Who's responsible when AI messes up?
Big time. The classic example is the medical diagnosis AI. If it makes a rare mistake, who's liable? The AI. The doctor using it. The hospital.
Or if the doctor overrides a correct AI suggestion and things go wrong.
Exactly. It's the trolley problem, but for algorithms.
And people have this algorithm aversion, right? We want some control, even if the AI is better.
We often do, yeah. We want a human in the loop, even a little bit. It relates to the bigger alignment problem.
Making sure AI goals actually align with human values, which is hard.
Incredibly hard. And designing accountability frameworks is tough because the stakes are so different. A bad movie recommendation is annoying. A bad medical diagnosis can be fatal.
The source suggests 3 places liability might fall.
Yeah. The AI system itself, which is legally tricky, the designers, developers, or the organization deploying it.
And there are principles for accountability, Friedler and Diopoulos.
Right. They propose 5 core ideas. Responsibility, who owns it? Explainability, can we understand it? Accuracy, does it work? Auditability, can we check it? And fairness, does it treat groups equitably?
Yeah.
Good starting points.
Beyond specific errors, there's the bigger picture of AI usage and control. Will AI benefits spread widely or just concentrate power?
That's a huge policy question. Will it worsen inequality with just a few tech giants reaping the rewards?
And if it is concentrated, who controls it? If it's not, how do you regulate something so powerful and distributed, the control problem?
Exactly. Who gets the red button to switch it off if needed? The source is pretty blunt. Humans aren't great at setting up impartial bodies for these kinds of decisions. We don't really have answers yet.
Which brings us finally to AI safety and, well, the scary stuff. Catastrophic risks.
Yeah, we have to talk about it. Malicious use of AI, using it for attacks, disinformation, surveillance is seen as virtually certain, unfortunately.
And AI systems themselves can be fragile. Small errors, big consequences.
Because of that exponential, chaotic underlying structure the source mentions. Think complex systems. A tiny input change can lead to a wildly different, potentially disastrous outcome.
Amodi and others listed core safety problems.
They did. Things like avoiding negative side effects even when achieving a goal. Preventing reward hacking, where the AI finds clever, unintended ways to get its reward.
Like cheating the system.
Exactly. Ensuring AI is robust to changes in its environment and learning human values safely. Big research areas.
The source adds interaction risk. Specifically, dependence.
Right, the dependence threat. Humans becoming so reliant on smart machines that we lose skills, critical thinking, or the ability to function without them. A slow burn risk, maybe?
And one last, almost counterintuitive point about transparency.
Ah, yeah, the potential downside.
Yep.
We push for explainable, transparent AI, right?
Well, of course.
But does making an AI's inner workings too clear make it easier for bad actors to manipulate it, to hack the game?
So transparency might have security trade-offs.
It's a complex trade-off to consider. Thankfully, there are many research groups now solely focused on AI ethics and safety, working hard on these problems.
Okay, wow, we've covered a lot of ground.
We really have. From practical business uses through blockchain, new leadership roles, right into the deep end of ethics.
So we've journeyed through AI in business, its convergence with blockchain, the leadership shifts, and wrestled with these huge ethical questions these technologies raise.
It really feels like the line between a technical problem and a philosophical one is just blurring completely with AI.
We tend to think ethics is our domain, the human domain. But what if AI itself starts challenging our definitions of right and wrong as it evolves?
That's the really profound question, isn't it? Maybe the biggest challenge isn't killer robots, but us. Humans wielding tools we don't fully grasp or whose deeper implications we haven't thought through.
So the deepest dive we need might not be into the code, but into ourselves, our own values, our assumptions.
Exactly. Understanding the technology is crucial, but understanding ourselves in the face of that technology, that might be the ultimate task ahead.